We're here now with the Legal Answer, which is a brand new segment twice a month here on Studio 10, brought to you by the Sinas Dramis Law Firm and personal injury attorneys Steve Sinas and Katie Tucker. And we have questions coming from you, the public, and they'll provide the legal answers. So joining us this week is Katie Tucker. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you for having me again. Glad to be here.
It's so great to have you here. But Katie, you know, we've talked a lot about filing personal injury claims when you're injured due to someone else's negligence. But today's question is, do those injuries have to meet a standard in order to be eligible for a personal injury claim?
Yes, they do. Under Michigan law, you have to show that you have suffered either a permanent serious disfigurement, death, or serious impairment of body function in order to recover what are known as non-economic losses. These are commonly thought of as damages for pain and suffering. Unfortunately, if you cannot make one of those showings, you cannot recover those types of damages. For that reason, lawyers commonly refer to serious impairment of body function as a threshold injury, because you have to cross the threshold, satisfy that standard in order to make a recovery.
Okay, well, speaking of that threshold, how is it determined that an injury meets that threshold?
That's a great question. In order to cross the threshold, an injury or an impairment must satisfy 3 requirements that our legislature has set forth in the Michigan No-Fault Act. The first is that the impairment must be objectively manifested. This requirement is usually satisfied through medical records or documentation of your injuries by a qualified third party like your doctor. The second requirement is that the injury be of an important body function, that it be an impairment of an important body function. So a function of great value or significance to you. Certainly any injuries to your extremities, a closed head injury, all of those sorts of injuries will satisfy that standard. The third requirement is that the impairment affect your general ability to lead your normal life. This really requires a comparison of your pre-accident life and your post-accident life. So for example, what activities could you do before that you can no longer do, or that you can no longer perform independently or in the same way or with the same frequency that you did before. With regard to this third requirement, there is no temporal requirement. There is no time period over which your injuries have to impair your normal manner of living. But the longer that the impairment exists and the longer that the injuries impact your life, the more likely it is that you'll satisfy that requirement, cross the threshold, and be able to make a recovery.
Okay, well, thank you, Katie, and thank you so much for breaking this down each bit by each part, because I feel like sometimes this is why we need this conversation. So this way we can answer those questions that we have. Now, I know you're only scratching the surface. I know there's so much more, but how can our viewers at home get more information?
Absolutely. So you can go to our websites. We have 2 websites that have informational resources, sinasdramis.com and autonofaultlaw.com. You are also welcome to consult with an attorney to learn more about how to pursue your claims and how to establish that you've satisfied this threshold requirement.
All right, well, thank you so much, Katie. And if you're looking at your screen right now, we'll have more of that information on Facebook and on WILX.com and as to how you can get a hold of Sinas Dramis. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. I look forward to being back.